Right, let's talk political debate. Angela Rayner has refused to apologise after branding Tories scum at a Labour conference event on Saturday.
Yes, the Labour deputy leader has said she will only say sorry if Boris Johnson apologises for past comments that she describes as homophobic and racist. Let's have a listen to a clip from her speech.
Cannot get any worse than a bunch of scum, homophobic, racist, misogynistic...
Go on, Angela.
Joining us now to discuss that, is it ever OK to call each other scum? Barrister and founder of the Good Law Project, Joe Morm, who thinks Angela Rayner is not the sinner in this situation, and London Assembly member and former London mayoral candidate Shaun Bailey, who disagrees with the leader's use of language. You are a Conservative, Shaun
Yes,
Bailey.
I am.
How offensive is it?
Well, look, I don't consider myself scum, so straight away I'm offended. But the real deeper issue is this. If you're a young Labour activist or a young Tory activist, she's basically said you must never speak, you must never meet. It's a threat, it's a bullying term. And I think we are a country now who our political discourse is so polarised, things like this just don't help. And I speak to young people all the time about politics, and they'll immediately tell you they start to behave like the people they want to become. Deputy leader of the Labour Party. So I actually don't think it's useful to do this, because as a country we have many challenges we face in the future, and the only way we'll get through them is if you can speak to people who have differing views to you. So this whole scum thing, I think, is unnecessary.
Joe?
I think if Angela Rayner had said of Conservative Party voters that they were scum, I'd absolutely be agreeing with Shaun Bailey. You know, there is a better country that I know we'd all like to live in which one doesn't feel the need to talk about a Prime Minister in terms like that. But the reality is that what Angela Rayner said about Boris Johnson is absolutely true. He is homophobic, he is racist, he is misogynistic. You know, my mum was a single mother. My father was an old Etonian who seduced her. When I look at what Boris Johnson said about single mothers, I'm really, really appalled. And I don't think that the problem with this country, frankly, is that people are too ready to talk truth to power. I don't think the problem with this country is that people are too ready to call out the Prime Minister for that which he gets
OK,
wrong.
but you might say there's evidence of racism, misogyny, homophobia, and you know, perhaps people will agree with you. But there's a reasoned debate to have about those issues which doesn't involve throwing the word scum around.
There is absolutely a reasoned debate to be had about those issues, but Angela Rayner wasn't having a debate about those issues. She was calling out the Prime Minister, who is not called out for this stuff. You know, and she wasn't just referring...
Except that if we started to really disagree about this, keeping the debate on an intelligent level and not throwing insults at each other is the right thing to do.
And I have to say as well, this isn't about Boris Johnson, it's about Angela Rayner. And she didn't call Boris Johnson scum, she called Tories scum. There are millions of people in the country who consider themselves Tories.
I think she did talk about the leadership of the party. But...
And as well, maybe. But
Sean, can I just ask you something else when we talk about language?
The point is, if you're at home, right, and you're thinking, I could vote this way, I could vote that way, she's just told you you're scum. Why would you get involved in that debate?
I agree with what Kevin Maguire said earlier. I think it was unwise. She should have phrased it differently. But if we talk about language, there is a word that Boris Johnson used about business, which I cannot... The F word, F business... That is far more significant, and it's actually happening now. So I do think when you talk about the way that political discourse has changed, when you have a Prime Minister who says that about business on which we depend for the future of our prosperity, then we have a problem in our politics.
I agree with you. Business is fundamental to this country. There's one thing more fundamental, the people of this country. And if you can tell more than half the people in the country they are scum, what does that say for our discourse? Today I'll speak to young people and I will have to convince them that they shouldn't join a gang. I'll have to convince them that a militant action is not the way to move forward. If one of them tells me that Angela Rayner disagrees, what am I to say? You can't just call people scum. It shuts down debate. And what it does, it marginalises communities.
Have said, F business.
Boris Johnson will always talk in the way he will. That's for him to answer. I'm not even here to tell you off about Angela Rayner. What I'm here to talk about, she should have a much better idea of the impact of the statement she makes. She leads a group of young people, like it or not, and when she makes those statements, it makes them believe that other people are their enemy and that they can't converse with them.
Why are we not talking about Michael Gove's comments about the cruel, dirty, toothless face of the North? He there very clearly was talking in extraordinarily rude terms, not about a politician, but about the whole north of the country. He is the Minister for Levelling Up, is he not? And I can't help but think that there's some double standards here. If you're working class and you speak ill of your betters like Boris Johnson, you get slammed. If you're a woman and you speak ill of a man, you get tone policed. But the men who do it, the old Etonians who do it, who speak in contemptuous terms about working-class people, they never get called out. And I have to say, I'm very sympathetic to Shaun's points. We must not talk to those who are like us using language like scum. But when it comes to calling out those who are in power, who have all of the privilege, who are Prime Minister, after all, for awful, awful things that they have said and done, I don't think the problem is that the language that we use is too strong.
Well,
if anything, I think it's not
but then
strong.
you're setting language is an issue.
It is, and you're setting up the double standard. Angela Rayner is suggesting because she's working class, she can call people scum, you know, and saying that's how working class people
Well, that's
speak.
interesting you say that, because we spoke to Rachel Reeves a little bit earlier on the programme, and she said if you're a frustrated working class driver on a petrol forecourt at the moment, that probably reflects some of the language.
The idea that we're sat in the pub with our flat
using.
caps and our whippets calling each other scum is ridiculous. What we're trying to do is make ends meet. And being able to have a debate without being considered scum because you don't vote Labour is very, very important. There's other people who look at this and say, that's just
Shaun, I have to hold you. I don't think anybody can say she was saying anybody who votes Tory is scum. She was not saying that.
But the point
she was calling out the leadership of your party.
The point is she wasn't. She was calling people scum who are Tories. The point is, Ansa, it loads.
I think
the
Old
language.
Etonian was in the phrase as well, by the way.
As well, that doesn't make it any better.
But I'm saying you can't say she was talking about anybody who voted Tory.
She's setting up the double standard, and that's really important if you come from where I come from. The idea, because we've had a hard life, we can say and do whatever we think.
On the leadership point, though, and the role model, let me give you another example where I think that your party and its leadership is really at fault in this. Yes, they set an example, so at the moment it still remains government policy that in a crowded space we wear masks. They've given up wearing masks. Is that not as significant, more significant? And yet that debate sort of comes and goes, and here we are talking about whether she should have used an S word.
Two separate things. My feeling on the masks is, I travel around London, I ran to be London Mayor, masks are very live for us. I can't see Sadiq Khan helping London Transport impose masks there. We're meant to be wearing them, nobody is. You know, I got on the train the other day, I'd say 90% of people...
But that's because of the example being set.
But that's exactly, it's a challenge for everybody, and there's a personal responsibility in it, and it brings us all the way back round to, should you be calling large numbers of the British public scum? Probably not, because it really doesn't help us all rub along, which we'll have to do no matter where your political views lie.